Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome to part 2 of getting started with the 737 MAX. Now if you missed part 1, just go back and check that, have a look at that before you come on to and start watching part 2. Now remember, this is not a tutorial. I'm a bit of a dummy myself, so I'm just showing you how I do it, how I enjoy the 737 MAX. And if you're absolutely new to Flight Simulator or the 737, this will help you get your wheels up, get up into the air and start having fun with this lovely aircraft. So it's really just for beginners. It's not a study level airplane, so we cannot go through all the buttons and bells and whistles and all the procedures and startups and all that. It is just a basic sort of a default 737, but it is lovely to fly and it is fun. So I'm just showing you how I do it and how I get going and how I enjoy this lovely plane. So just to recap, on part 1 we covered building the flight plan from scratch, making the nice gentle turns to the left and right, keeping the flight plan nice and simple but very, very smooth. And also that was automatically programmed straight into our FMC, into the computer on the aircraft. All our waypoints and all our ILS approach and everything went in there. So that was it. So that's a great way to do it. I love doing it that way. Also, we went through all the gate procedures, okay, of getting on the luggage, the passengers, the jetway, getting clearance for departure, for taxiing. We did all that, all the gate departure processes. And we did that, and we also covered the taxiing down to the active runway. We cruised at around about 10 to 15 knots on our taxi. We set the throttles at 35%, in between 30-35%, and then we didn't touch them. We just used the rudders to steer and keep our wheel on the yellow line, and we cruised down gently to the hold short. We've had clearance for departure. So now we're ready to start stage 2 of our getting started series. So welcome aboard. Now just a couple of things that I didn't show you in part 1, but it's something that I always like to do. You can do it now, or you can do it at the gate. Is just go over the FMC here and make sure all your waypoints are actually programmed into the computer. You click on routes or legs, and that will show you all your waypoints that are in there ready to go. You need this for your autopilot. Also arrival and departure. There we go, we've got our departure KSAN and our arrival at Los Angeles, which is KLAX. So it's all in there, all ready to go. Also set the auto brake to where you want to have it, and also come up here and set the barometric pressure. A couple of things I meant to tell you on in stage 1. Okay, now up here also, when you set your throttles to 35% for taxiing, you can see the number on the throttle display up here. 25% at the moment, it's down to idle. But when you set it to 35, you'll see the number come up here, 35, between 30 and 35%. Now also the flaps display here. When your flaps are up and you don't have any flaps, when you get started, when you start your plane, you see the flap display disappears completely. But as soon as you start putting your flaps down, the flaps display will pop up here and you'll be able to see where your flaps are. So I have them set about 3, and I have my trim set down a little bit as well. If I go outside the aircraft, you can see where my flaps are set, about in the middle, and I've brought my trim down a little bit for departure as well. Now also I like to check the control surfaces, the ailerons here, and just give them a bit of a wiggle, make sure everything is moving freely, and the rudders at the back, everything is good, move them in both directions. Okay, so we have had clearance from the tower for departure. So we are ready to move on to the runway. We just make sure that our beacon light is on, our strobe light is on if we're heading on to the active runway. Our landing lights are on, and any other lights, taxi lights can go off. Okay, check that the seatbelt signs are on, and you've told the crew to prepare for takeoff. So we're all good to go. Also, even though we have clearance, I like to check just to make double sure that there's no one on the active runway. Even though you have clearance, I still like to eyeball the runway just to make sure no one's coming in for a landing and there's no planes on the runway. Okay, so now I'm confident and we are happy. The plane is all configured. The engines are stable. We can set our throttles to 35% again, and we can head out onto the active runway for departure.
Cleared for takeoff runway 27 Jet in Juliet, India, Alpha 100.
As you can see, it does take a little bit to get this plane moving, so you have to bring the throttle up a little bit more to get the wheels rolling, get some momentum going, and then you can bring it back down to 30% or something like that. Right, we are ready to take off. Now, one thing I've noticed with Microsoft Flight Simulator, in the past you couldn't save your flight. You saved your flight, and then when you reloaded it, you came back and you had no flight plan. It was all wonky. But now I see that because I had to have a break doing this, something came up. I saved the flight and I reloaded again, and I actually have my flight plan here as well. So that is an improvement. However, it's not all good news. When I go to the air traffic control, all I get is this. I can't go into tower and just double check that I do have clearance. I know I do have clearance because you'll see on the last video I did get clearance as I came out, before I came out onto the runway. But I saved my flight, and all I've got is this. I've got no air traffic control. So when I depart, you may get a message saying I am not cleared to take off, so just ignore that, okay? I know I do have clearance for takeoff, but for some reason when you reload your flight, the air traffic control screen doesn't look right. But it is a big improvement. You can save your flight now, and you do actually have your flight plan saved as well, so that's really good. Okay, we're ready to take off. I'm going to bring up the throttles. Make sure my trim is set down because this plane can be a bit slow to lift off sometimes. Naturally, that depends on the payload as well. So I've got my trim down, and we're going to try and rotate or lift off around about 140 knots. You will hear the message V1, and we will try and take off around about 140 knots. Okay, so I'm bringing the gear back just gently and lightly, but it is very slow and sluggish to get off the ground today. Right, positive rate, gear up. Now I try to keep my climb out rate around about 10 to 15%. I don't always achieve that. I'm not that good a pilot, okay? That's why I don't do tutorials. I just show people what I do. I'm a dummy. I do everything simple and easy so that I can get up flying, and that's all I do. And there's that message again. I'm not cleared to take off. So that has something to do with that little glitch when you save your flight plan. Now we're under 10,000 feet, so we cannot go over 200 knots. I'm over 200 knots. That is not good. Okay, we've got to stay around 200 knots if we're under 10,000 feet. Okay, but we are climbing out, and that is good. So just keep it at a straight line. Okay. Now what I'm going to do for the autopilot. Thanks, guys. Now. Okay, I'm going to turn on the flight director, turn on the auto throttle. I'm going to turn on LNAV. I'm going to turn on altitude hold, and then I'm going to turn on autopilot. Now the speed is also turned on, and that is set at 200 knots. So that's going to make sure we don't go over the speed limit. and we were instructed to climb out and depart at 8,000 feet when we were getting clearance. So I'm going to bring the altitude to 8,000 feet, and we're going to stay at 8,000 feet as we climb out, as we depart. Now we're still climbing, so I'm going to do the vertical speed, set that to plus 1,400. So that will make sure that we are climbing up towards our assigned altitude. Okay. Right, so let's go over what we've done here. We've turned on the auto throttle, turned on the flight director. Speed is on and set at 200 knots. LNAV is engaged. Altitude is set at 8,000 feet, and vertical speed is plus 1,500. So we're climbing up to that. Now we should be turning now to intercept our GPS, our flight plan, and indeed we are. It's a lovely gentle turn. Our flaps are up, so we're clean, and we are on our way to Los Angeles.
Once you reach a comfortable cruising altitude, ladies and gentlemen, the flight attendants will be in the cabin to offer you a cocktail beverage of your choice, along with breakfast. There are 5 flight attendants on board today, primarily for your safety. If there's anything we can do to make your trip more enjoyable, please don't hesitate to ask. I would like you to sit back and relax. Enjoy.
Sit back and relax and enjoy the flight. Now you can see we're at 199 knots, and we're climbing up towards 8,000 feet. We don't have far to go today, so I think I'm actually going to stick at 10,000 feet until it's time to descend, because we have a very, very short trip just up the coast to Los Angeles. Nice and simple, nice and easy. So there's no reason to be up at 30,000 feet or 25,000 feet. Otherwise, by the time we get up there, it'll be time to come down again. So we're going to save a heck of a lot of fuel and a heck of a lot of time and just stay at 10,000 feet. Beautiful day, and cruising up the coast here, and the plane is looking BEA beautiful. And we're coming up now to 8,000 feet.
Well, good day, ladies and gentlemen, from the flight deck. We're level at our cruise altitude, so I'm going to turn off the seatbelt sign at this time. So you're free to move about as necessary. However, when seated, we would like you to keep your seatbelts comfortably fastened for your safety. We just checked the weather and expect smooth sailing for most of the flight. So for the most part, we're going to stay quiet and let you enjoy the entertainment and service, and we'll be talking with you later on the...
Okay, so we're making just a nice, slow, gentle turn to the left on our flight plan. To come up here, turn off our landing lights. Taxi lights are off. Logo lights can stay on. Strobe lights can stay on. Wing lights can stay on. Whatever your preference is, guys. I don't know. Okay, so that's about it for part 2 of our series on getting started with the 737 MAX. Like I've said, it's not a tutorial. I'm not good at tutorials. I'm a basic, simple guy who just likes to get in and fly. I just like to have fun, okay? I'm a casual flyer. And if this helps you get up and get flying in some way, well, that is good. And it's, as you know, I'm not the person who does full-on tutorials on procedures and checklists and all that. I just keep it simple and have fun. That's all it is meant to be. And if it helps you get up flying, if you're a beginner with Flight Simulator or with your 737, if it helps you get up and fly and have fun, well, I've achieved my goal. So that's good. Okay, so that's the end of stage part 2. of our getting started. On stage 3, we will go into the descent and the final approach, intercepting the ILS and doing the ILS landing. So that'll be all part of our last stage of the series, part 3. Okay, so if you have any helpful tips or hints down below, if you're an experienced flight simmer or pilot, any helpful hints or tips or tricks. Remember, this is not a full-on simulator, so we can't do everything that we'd like to do as far as procedures and checklists and things. But if you see something obvious that will help us with our procedures and give us a little bit more of enjoyment out of this plane, feel free to put it in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Hi to all my new subscribers. Hope you're having a wonderful Christmas and stay safe over the holidays. Take care, everyone. Ciao.